Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of As the World Churns. Danielle and I are thrilled to be here and thrilled that you're all joining us, assuming you're all joining us. For all we know, we're talking to ourselves. We have no idea yet. But I'm going to assume that you're all joining us from the new abnormal. And yeah, so this is As the World Churns. It's going to be not too dissimilar from the new abnormal. We may add some segments, make some tweaks. We may solicit opinions, fun stuff like that. Crowdsourcing, I believe the kids call it, Danielle.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say.
yeah. Um, but yeah, we are here to continue what we had been doing for the previous bunch of years. And with that, Danielle, please
Take it
add whatever
away.
you would like.
Folks, I'm glad that you're here. It's super exciting for us to be on YouTube so that you can see our sarcasm on our faces and not just in our voices. Without further ado, the world is churning. So, let's get into our first point of discussion, Andy, which is Donald Trump
Well,
is the fucking Pope.
yeah. Uh, so, you know, in the last few days, obviously the conclave is getting going over in Rome. I'm headed there right after we finish recording. So a couple days ago, whatever, the Trump campaign thought it would be cute, clever, whatever, to post an AI generated photo, i.e., not a photo, of Donald Trump wearing a Pope's outfit, complete with a meter on top of his head, I believe it's called. Big old cross around his neck, the white robes, the grace. There's a bunch of different ways to look at this, and one is just to roll your eyes and let it
Hmm.
slide and say, yeah, this is dumb, whatever. Another way is to say, don't say anything because they're trolling. They want you to say something. But Danielle, as we were talking before we started recording, there is meaning behind this stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And I think that the fact is, one, we can't just roll our eyes at this because it's not a joke, even though the Trump administration seems to think that everything is a joke. It's not. And number two, look, this is about distorting our reality. This is about putting Donald Trump in the same breath, in the same space as someone who has absolute religious authority and power. So Trump starts this idea of him being this supreme leader, right? And Lindsey Graham then is just, I guess, seconds that emotion because that's what bootlickers do. So he does this and then it takes off. And it takes off in the most absurd way. But again, it isn't just about the absurdity. It's this idea that Donald Trump and his sycophants see him as this all knowing, omnipotent being, right? That can assume as much power as possible. And so for them, this is not out of the realm of possibility. It is something that God himself has intended. I mean, did you see, Andy, the visual of these white evangelicals singing Amazing
Yeah,
Grace,
yeah,
praying over Donald Trump? Like,
yep,
that wasn't AI. That
yeah.
wasn't AI generated. This is what these people see as this imperfect tool that they imagine Donald Trump to be in order to execute their idea of this white nationalist Christian reality theocracy that they want the rest of us to live under.
Oh, for sure. And that's why, as you said, like people always say, oh, it's a joke, lighten up, whatever. It is very instructive that every one of these joke AI images of Trump, and we're going to talk about a different one later in the show, they always put him, it's always the huge muscles, he's swole, he's in a position of power. There's not a hint of self-deprecation. And this is a common thing, I think, for conservatives that they do not. I don't want to blanket it, but it's pretty blanket at this point, and it's absolutely a blanket thing for MAGA. They have they can never poke fun at themselves.
Mm-mm.
Everything that they do has to be, making them larger than life, making them the power center. And again, all of this is reflected in the policies that they favor. And whether it's going after LGBTQ plus folks, whether it's going after racial or religious minorities,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's, just in general going after brown or black people, everything is to center them as the power with a capital P in this country. And so this really is of a piece with that. And yeah, you could say, don't make too much of it, but it really does fit everything that they do perfectly. And you see this. I mean, at Danielle, as you brought up before we started recording, this is perfectly of a piece with what Trump said over the weekend
Yep.
when he was on Meet the Press and he was
Mm-hmm.
asked if he thought it was his job to defend the Constitution, whether it was his job to make sure that due process is given to every person born on American soil. His response was, I don't
I
know.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure, call me crazy, but when you swear an oath, right, as president of the United States, which I just want to remind folks that on Inauguration Day, Donald Trump did not put his hand on the Bible when he was taking the oath of office. That is not just a casual aside. That was purposeful. So that's number one. Number two, when you do take the oath, you say that you are going to what? Uphold the Constitution of the United States. And so everyone from a toddler, right, knows that what do presidents do? They protect and defend the Constitution. When Kristen Welker asked Donald Trump, isn't it your job to, uphold the Constitution? And his response is, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I need to check with my lawyers, is to place inside of us this seed of reasonable doubt as if, oh, the Constitution isn't a given, that it's something that, like, you can maybe sort of decide that you don't actually want to uphold, and like the president gets to do that.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be, it's not a Chinese menu with a column A and a column B and you pick and choose what you want. Like you don't get to pick which amendments or which articles you want to follow and uphold and protect and defend. It's sort of a package deal. It's the whole Constitution. And the I just everything he does, I know it's a fool's game. I think, what if Joe Biden did this? Then I really think, what if Obama did this?
Oh,
Can you
please.
imagine if President Obama had been asked about whether he needed to uphold the Constitution of the United States and he said, I don't know, check with my lawyers. Can you imagine if he had put out if his campaign had put out an image of him as the Pope? I am just, look, I worked at Fox News during the Obama presidency. I cannot even imagine what that building would have been like if either one of those things had happened. But Donald Trump, all these conservatives who for all these years kept talking about the Constitution and kept reaching into their inside coat pocket and saying, I carry a pocket Constitution with me at all times. The reality is they could not give a shit about the Constitution. They never could. What they cared about was putting a black man in his place.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so obvious how much of that supposed constitutionalism was an absolute farce.
It's a farce because let's understand that it is a fool's game to say, what if Biden, what if Obama? But it's also important to remind people how actual presidents are supposed to act, right? Like
Mhm.
what is considered, to have decorum, right?
Right.
Like the things that used to be posted via social media from the White House was not a game or a joke. It was
Yeah.
serious because the office of the presidency was serious, right? And what Donald Trump has done over the last 9 years, not just the last few months, but the last 9 years, is desecrate that office and turn it into a fucking joke, right? And then make it so that the rule of law is just, well, it's a suggestion because he's above that. Because we have to remind ourselves that this man posted on his broke down social media site, he who defends his country doesn't break the law. The architect of insanity, right, is what Donald Trump is, to create this entirely alternate universe where he is the supreme being. He alone can fix this. He alone can destroy this, which is America, our Constitution, and our democracy. And he's doing it so that the whiteness gets recentered and that people don't have to bother themselves with pronouns. They don't have to bother themselves with, equality and justice. They don't have to trouble themselves with treating people equally. They can just sit comfortably in regression and know that, like, they can be great again. That's it. Like, that's the goal.
Yeah, and what you said there, that his whole thing where he alone can fix it, and all that stuff, that as we've talked about in the past, all of that is very biblical. And so it all again comes back to why the image of Trump as Pope isn't just a dumb internet joke. It's because he has been using this language. Now, granted, he generally uses the language of, as you pointed out, evangelicals and not Catholics, and there's a big difference there. But it's the language of Christianity. It's the language of religiosity. It's the language of Christian nationalism. And so so yeah, when you see this picture of him as the Pope and you hear him say, I alone can do this, and when you're the president, you can't do anything that's anything you do is legal, basically. And when you're a picture of a Pope, again, this is all authoritarianism. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what all of this is. It's authoritarianism with a religious bent to it, and so you can't just look at this picture, this AI generated slop, this crap of him as the Pope, and just sort of roll your eyes. Because, as we've been saying, it's all of a piece. That's the important thing here, is it all fits the paradigm, it all fits the philosophy, and none of it is accidental. I mean, I'm not saying they planned on doing this Pope picture, for years, but once Trump made his little comment, oh, well, maybe I'll be Pope, they just ran with it. And they ran with it because it fits their agenda pitch perfectly.
100%.